Texas, North Carolina, Missouri, Ohio, Florida, Alabama, Louisiana, Tennessee, South Carolina, all moving to do the same thing. Now, the first five that I mentioned have already redrawn their congressional maps since the Supreme Court gutted the voting rights 2 weeks ago, which we covered, by the way. Trump wants to suspend federal gas tax. And globally, Israel has dropped a bombshell on its relationship with the United States. Plus, the Iran ceasefire is on life support, and the antivirus ship has a brief update. Stay with me. If you haven't subscribed, please go ahead and do so. Click the notification bell to see whatever and whenever we post a new episode. Let's do a recap. 2 weeks ago, the Supreme Court issued its ruling in Louisiana versus Calais, gutting Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act and making it dramatically harder to challenge racially discriminatory maps. We covered it in depth in this channel. If you missed it, go back and watch that live episode. Now, within hours of ruling, Republican-controlled states moved. Florida held a special session. Governor DeSantis signed new maps. Texas reactivated its redistricting process. North Carolina followed. Missouri, Ohio, all redrawing maps mid-decade. Almost unheard of in American political history, specifically to squeeze out Democratic seats before November. According to Democracy Docket's live redistricting tracker, Republicans now stand to gain up to 12 additional House seats through the mid-decade redraws, not by changing anyone's mind, by changing the lines around communities that vote Democratic, specifically Black, Latinos, and minorities communities in southern states. And Trump's approval rating just hit 34% in Pew Research Center survey, the lowest of his presidency. He knows a wave of election is possible in November and is using redistricting as an insurance policy. Today, Hakeem Jeffries sent a letter to the House of Democratic Caucus calling an emergency meeting for Thursday. He called the Republicans' effort, quote, blatantly undemocratic court decision that promised a massive Democratic redistricting counteroffensive. He named New York, Colorado, Washington, and Maryland as states taking steps to respond. California and Virginia have already authorized redraws that could add to 9 blue states. New Jersey and Illinois are being approached. Democrats have previously committed a nonpartisan redistricting commission, are now being urged to suspend those committees and fight fire with fire. Democracy Docket confirmed multiple lawsuits have already been filed against Florida's new map allegation, alleging it violates the state's constitution ban on partisan gerrymandering adopted by voters in 2020 referendum. More lawsuits are coming in every state that has redrawn. And here's the bottom line. The 2026 midterm, 6 months away, are now being fought in courtrooms and state legislatures as much as the ballot office, the ballot box. Maps being used in November may not be decided until weeks before the election day, and the Supreme Court ruling that started all of this, using your right to vote as the battlefield, is what we already covered in this channel. Now, subscribe if you have not. Share this episode specifically and especially with anyone you know who's registered to vote in the South. Now, back to it. On Monday, Trump told CBS he wants to suspend the federal gas tax. Now, here's exactly what that means. The federal gas tax is $18.14 per gallon as gallons on gasolines and 24.4 cents per gallon on diesel. It's been in place since 1993. It's funding highway constructions and infrastructures maintenance across the United States. Gas is, as of right now, you can say roughly $4.52 nationally from a 2.98 when Iran war started back in February 28th. Brown University calculated the war has already cost American households an average of $284 each. That is $37 billion nationally. Okay, that is a lot, guys. Now, Trump wants to suspend that 18.4 cents tax indefinitely, pausing it back to when gas prices drop. He said, we're going to take off the gas tax for a period of time, and when gas goes down, we'll phase it back in. Now, the problem with that is suspending the federal gas tax requires an act of Congress, and Congress has declined to do every single time fuel prices have surged under both Republican and Democratic presidents. The Congressional Budget Office has previously noted that gas suspension often benefits fuel companies as much as consumers because prices do not fall proportionately on the pump. Saudis Aramco CEO warned this week even if the Strait of Hormuz reopened today, it would take months of the market to rebalance. Pre-war prices are not coming back soon, regardless of what happens to the gas tax. Trump can propose it, Congress can pass it, and so forth. Is silence from Capitol Hill. Now, the ceasefire on the Trump himself called, quote, massive life support, Iran submitted a counter proposal demanding a recognition of sovereignty over the Strait of Hormuz and compensation for war wages. Trump called it totally unacceptable. Iran warned of surprising new methods of warfare if attacked again. Peace talks have stalled. The Strait of Hormuz remains, closed. All inventories are being drawn globally. Saudi's Aramco warned the closure may not resolve by this year. This is where we're standing right now. And the bombshell that I mentioned, Minister Benjamin Netanyahu told CBS News 60 Minutes this week that Israel wants to end U.S. military aid. You heard that right. Reducing the 3.8 billion it received annually from the US to zero. His exact words: "It's time to wean ourselves from the remaining military support." Now, let me be clear about how you can say extraordinary that statement is. The United States has provided Israel with military assistance since 1948, 3.8 billion every year and more. This relationship has been cornerstone of Middle East policy for every American president for nearly 80 years. Netanyahu is now saying publicly Israel wants to cut the cord, and that's not a casual statement, guys. This is a calculated signal. Analysts are reading as Netanyahu telling Washington Israel's done being dependent on American political approval for its military operations. After months of tension over Iran war strategy, over ceasefire terms, over U.S. pressure on how Israel conducts operations in Lebanon and Gaza, Netanyahu appears to be declaring the strategic independence from a country that has funded its military for three-quarters of a century. Now, what does that mean for the broader Middle East, for U.S. leverage in the region? For the Iran war endgame is still unfolding, but the statement itself is historic. And briefly, the hantavirus ship Canadian passengers from MVP Hunters are now returning home to isolate. Canada is preparing to receive 4 nationals from the ship. The 17 American passengers transported to Nebraska Minister National Quarantine Unit remain healthy and asymptomatic as of this morning. And this story is starting to continue to develop. There's one person that has tested positive, you can say, for it, but stable from what we have been told by UNMC. Now, maps are being redrawn. The ceasefire is on life support. An 80-year alliance just publicly questions its own terms. Hakeem Jeffries wrote a letter to his caucus today. He said, even after being added to and debated blatantly Democratic court decisions, the failed GOP majority will not be able to gerrymander themselves back into power. Your vote still matters, but today is voting, especially if you're in the state of Nebraska. Please do so. Share this episode. Check your district. Democracydocket.com. That is democracydocket.com. Subscribe if you have not already. Drop a comment. Tell me what state you are in and whether your district has redrawn or has been redrawn. I leave you in the care of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Fi amanillah. Take care, everyone.